Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Fall Virtual Conference 2021. We are so happy that you're all here. We have on our last session, we have 6 more to go in the next couple of days. We are rocking the back to school theme, so we are trying to teach you some lessons here. I'm here with the CEO of the Gypsy Nurse, Steve Curtin, and I'm Rachel Altum, the online community manager. I'm going to pass it over to Steve real quick, and he's going to tell you a little bit more about the Gypsy Nurse and the virtual conference.
Absolutely. Well, thanks, Rachel. Great to see you for session number 3 tonight. And this is going to be a great one with Brittany Garcia from TNAA Healthcare, talking about travel nursing with children, which I just have no idea how people do that. So I can't wait to talk more about that with Brittany, who's a veteran of travel nursing with children. But I want to welcome everybody joining us this evening for session number 3. This is day 1 of our second annual fall virtual conference. We have sessions tomorrow, Thursday and Friday. If you need to find out more information about our upcoming sessions, please visit thegypsynurse.com. Rachel's showing it right there. And our brand new events hub. For those of you that are familiar with the gypsynurse.com website and hopefully are registered members, you're going to see a new look on our site. We just introduced that back a few weeks ago. There's lots of great stuff for visitors and registered members. But speaking of the Events Hub, Rachel's showing it there now. Our entire agenda over the next few days is there. So we encourage you to register for any or all of the events that are coming up. There's some great stories and great sessions that people are going to be bringing you and offering their advice and opinion, and we're going to have some fun too, right, Rachel? There is a fun component to this. Yes. So there's going to be some fun sessions. But again, we want to welcome everybody, encourage you to join these sessions. All of the sessions are being recorded. So we know nurses and travel nurses in particular have a very busy schedule. So if folks can't make these live events, they can still go to the Events Hub and view our events on demand. So we encourage everybody to do that. We would also like to thank our sponsor, their exclusive sponsor of the second annual Fall Virtual Conference, and that is Fusion Marketplace. So we'd like to thank the folks from Fusion Marketplace for helping us put on these events. And I think, Rachel, there is as they used to say, a word from our sponsor here that you're going to show everybody.
Definitely. And if you're not familiar with Fusion Marketplace, or if you haven't seen the first 2 sessions, Fusion Marketplace is a one-stop shop for healthcare travelers where they can easily compare benefits, pay packages, and reviews across multiple agencies. As a traveler-first driven platform, Fusion Marketplace is a curated career experience where healthcare travelers can take control of their careers. And we have a little message from them that I'm going to go ahead and start.
Search and compare jobs from multiple agencies to find the perfect fit. Apply easily with one click and pack your bags. Fusion Marketplace. Find your next adventure today.
All right, a great word from our sponsor. So thank you so much, Fusion. You guys can go check that out at fusionmarketplace.com. We do have some more fun going on. We're going to be doing a giveaway. So if you ask any questions, interact, give Brittany a shout out, you will be entered to win a $75 Amazon gift card. And then if you stick to the end for Brittany's Q&A, she's going to be giving away some TNAA swag, a sweatshirt, and a water bottle. So stay tuned for the Q&A. And speaking of Brittany, this face may look a little familiar to you since if you watched the 11 a.m. session, she spent about half of her career traveling the country with her family as a TNAA travel nurse. Not only has she traveled with a child, which can probably be very, very difficult, but she has worked at some of the most prestigious children's hospitals like Boston's Children, Seattle's Children's, Arkansas's Children, just to name a few. So she definitely loves children, as you can see. So let's bring Brittany on. Hi, Brittany.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for
having me. Hey, Brittany. Welcome back.
Thanks. Long time no see.
Yes.
Well, I know we have a lot to talk about on this topic. So I'll go ahead and just jump right in and tell y'all a little bit about my story first, and then we can kind of go into the specifics of, breaking down each piece of it. Because as you know, like traveling, well, being a parent in general is challenging, but let alone taking them on the road has its own unique set of challenges to go along with that. So, travel nursing in general was really the idea of my husband. He approached me one day and was like, "Look, we need to do something different. And, please promise me that you'll like at least consider this." And I thought at first, I'm like, he's nuts. I am not going to leave my staff job. I've been here for 5 years. I love the people I work with. I feel like, I'm precepting, I'm on all these committees. Like, this is the hospital I'm going to retire at. And quite frankly, like, I'm so grateful for that experience because it gave me a wonderful foundation to start traveling. So I looked more into it and I'm like, you know what? Dang it, he's right. Like we hate to admit that. But he's right. So let me do a little bit more research and see what I can find. And I did. And we thought, like, let's give it a shot because we were kind of working opposite schedules. We had just gotten married, we just bought a house, and then we had a baby. And so it was like, oh my gosh, we're working to live, but not really living. And so we wrote down a list of questions, what was important to us as a family and what our goals were and what we wanted to accomplish. And so I started talking with like 5 different agencies. I had a list of questions. It's probably 3 pages long for each one, interviewed them. And, we told our family about it, which I think was probably the most challenging part, like breaking them the news that, hey, we're taking your first grandchild and we're moving across the country, which they weren't very happy about, but we did. And, we thought, it's going to be a year, right? Like it's going to be something short term. We'll come back. But Nick actually decided to leave his job. He was a stay-at-home dad full time, so he cared for Izzy while I did my 3 shifts. And then the time in between, we just got to be a family and really focus on that, which I think was the best part of the whole experience. I feel like sometimes people get caught up with material stuff, and that travel experience really gave us time to focus on one another and focus on being a family. And so I get emotional about that because like our world right now is so technology driven that I feel like a lot of times we lose that social interaction. And so that's really important to me. But um, I guess let's start getting, some of the logistics out of the way. So, when you're traveling with a kid, there's questions like housing, like what are you going to take company provided, or is it going to be something that you look at, because typical travel companies offer the company provided housing is like for one person, a travel nurse, not a travel family, like in our circumstance. So, working with an agency that has a housing specialist or a housing department to help you find that is, something that we wanted to look at. I can get into the later of what we decided to do, but that was something that was important for me to like kind of tease out beforehand. Benefits, wanting to have medical, dental, vision, all of that stuff, because with Nick leaving his job, I was going to be the sole provider for all of us. And that was something that we really needed to make sure we had locked down. So when I was looking at agencies and trying to figure out what it was that we were going to do, that was something that was really high on my list that I needed to make sure. Not only that, but having a good relationship with my recruiter if I was going to be uprooting my family, making sure that they really understood my needs and my wants. And, I had questions about, well, what if I don't get a job? Or, how am I going to know like where I'm going to be? I think that was the hardest thing for me was as an ICU nurse, like trying to kind of release that, I guess,
Right.
that control that I wanted to have and be like, I want to know where I'm going and how long before I can find the next one, because you want to have some kind of security, I feel like, as a parent and taking your kids out on the road. So I think in today's market it's kind of an excellent time because there is that great job security. With my specialty being PICU, our jobs kind of drop off during the summertime and really pick up in the wintertime. So it was never anything I had to worry about during that time of year. But in the summer, I was like, okay, so do I need to extend my contract to like stay here longer? Or, am I going to be trying to figure out like uprooting again? I don't know. Then, when you're traveling with a spouse, is your spouse going to be working? Are they able to be remote versus not be remote? Or are they just going to be a stay-at-home parent like ours was? So there's all those unique situations that you kind of have to figure out what works best for you. I know a lot of people have different age children.
Yeah.
I traveled when my daughter was a year old, that's when we left. And so finding schooling wasn't really something that we had to focus on, but I get that question a lot. And travel nursing isn't really one size fits all. You can travel just during the summertime if your kids are in school and you don't want to uproot them out of school. That's an option because there's contracts that are 8 weeks, 6 weeks, 4 weeks. It really depends on what it is that you're looking for. Some people go do local assignments where they can take their kids with them. And looking into homeschooling, I worked with several travel nurses that traveled with 3 and 4 kids, and they went RVing and they took their kids, and they told me about I think it was K-12 or K through 12, or what was the other one? I had it written down for the online schooling, Connections Academy. So because I had considered actually continuing traveling once Izzy got into school, but we never made it that far. But that's, an option to look at if your kids are older and you're wanting to travel, and definitely getting their input on what it is that they're wanting to do. Later, I'll have Izzy come and talk about her experience too, so she can share her perspective, being a travel kid and what it was like for her.
We would love to talk to Izzy, Brittany, about her experience and her perspective on what it was like for her.
Yeah. So it looks
That's
like
great.
there's a question that came through. Is it possible for a spouse to travel with you and work too? What ideas are out there for someone who isn't a nurse to still work? So yes, it really depends on what career they are working in. I have a friend who her husband's in IT and he's able to be remote and they travel no problem. And so he just takes his job wherever she goes and they make it work. Um, you know, I can laugh because my husband, so he used to work in Parks and Recreation, and then he stopped doing that so that we could travel. And when we were on assignment, he would pick up odd jobs like walking dogs through Rover. And oh my gosh, he looked at doing Uber at one point, but that didn't really pan out. But yeah, I mean, the dog walking thing was actually a pretty good gig. So you can find odd jobs to pick up if you're not wanting to do like your career while you're on the road. A lot of temp staffing agencies, other than travel nursing, offer opportunities that are short term if you're looking to go somewhere and pick up something in the meantime. And now with the pandemic, so many more things are remote. So, the opportunities are kind of endless.
So, Brittany, I've got a bunch of questions here for you, and some of
Okay.
these came in offline from our community. This is this is why we wanted to have you on. This is a huge topic within the Gypsy nurse community, and we have people in our network discussion group asking questions all the time about, what's it like to travel with children or different ages and so on and so forth. So I'll kind of go through a couple here. You touched on it earlier. I know when you started out, your daughter was very young and was really not of school age. What is your perspective, or what have you learned from other travel nurses whose kids may be older and they are school age? I mean, how do they do it? That to me is just mind boggling, unless it's all homeschooling. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a lot of organization, I would say. So I've seen nurses do it both ways. Like there's a nurse I worked with at Children's Colorado, and she's got, I believe, 4 kids. And her husband's a stay-at-home dad, but she also homeschools all of them on her days off, which, wow. I don't know
Wow.
how she does
Wow
that,
is
but
right. Yeah.
yeah, and so I want to say that the K through or K12.com or the Connections Academy, one of the two is attached to the public school curriculum. And so you're able to actually get more information from them by state, like wherever your tax home is, to kind of get the curriculum for your kid's age and go through that with them. So that's, a great option because it's very guided so that you're not like, I don't know, what's second grade math, things like that, that you're trying to figure out, you're not going in blind, I guess I should say. There's a lot of help out there. You just have to know where to find it.
So if I'm doing the math right, your daughter, you started travel nursing when she was a year old, and you continued, if I remember correctly, for about 4 years. So she was 4 or 5 when you kind of came off the road.
Yep.
What was the evolution like during that time for you and for your daughter? I mean, she was essentially an infant or a toddler all the way up to preschool. What was
Yeah.
that like? That must have been a crazy experience watching her grow while you're on the road.
You know, I loved it. I
Yeah.
I get a lot of criticism from some people saying, "Well, how could you just like move your kid that frequently, right? Like it must have been detrimental to her development and socialization." But for those of y'all that have met or seen Izzy, she is the most social child. Like she does not know a stranger. She could go talk to a wall if she wanted to and carry on a conversation. And I think that the experiences that she gained traveling with, meeting so many different people and the culture and the experiences was extremely valuable to her. And in fact, not a detriment at all. I think that, we were able to show her things in our country, such as the Grand Canyon, and
Yeah.
explain, you know, different things like visiting national parks, which is a big thing that we used to do, like because we were on a budget when we traveled, so we always tried to find things that were meaningful to us and that we could really use as learning opportunities for our child while we were on the road, and using the geography where we were going to make it really impactful for her. And I found it to be really, honestly, really cool because
Hmm.
over the years as we did this, I mean, she's just so mature and just very cultured for a 7-year-old. I mean, she just like loves the outdoors. And I feel really grateful that we had that experience because it was able to like show her different things that I never got to experience as a kid. So to answer your question, I think it was a wonderful experience and it was neat to see her growth in that. And I would do it again a million times over.
So what was the housing situation like? I mean, that's obviously a big part of it. We had Ashley Graham on earlier today, TNA's director of housing, and
Yeah.
she's everything housing. But it's curious to see what we didn't really talk about housing situations for traveling families. How did you guys work it? What did you look for? What were some of the things that were important for you, as you were traveling with your daughter? Was it long-term stay? Was it Airbnb? I mean, what agency housing? How did you work it?
So there's tons of options, as y'all already know. We elected to do the subsidy and find our own housing. There's
Okay.
tons of Facebook groups that cater to travelers, and you can find them by city. And when we found doing it that way, and then also Airbnb, we'd come into a place that was already furnished, so we didn't have to, find that stuff. So that really worked out well for us. Again, I'll go back to people think we were crazy because my very first assignment, we rented a tiny home in Albuquerque, New Mexico. It was 200 square feet for the three of us.
That's like a closet. Yeah.
Yeah, it was tiny. It had a full bathroom. We had a full kitchen with an oven and a stove and a refrigerator, like a full size fridge. And like it was kind of one big room, like a studio, except for the bathroom. And on the other side of our bed, we had probably 3 to 4 feet, just enough space to put a pack and play. So we had a little wall divider and then Izzy's pack and play. And that is where she slept. And I worked rotating shifts there. So when mama had to sleep, they were out like during the day. But I feel like for most of our travel assignments, we were out exploring anyway, so being in the housing wasn't super important for us to find
Hmm.
something that, had like 3 bedrooms or something like that. Now, granted, if your kids are older or you have more children that you're traveling with, those are definitely things that you're going to want to consider, and talking with an agency that has a housing department is really important because they can really help you locate that or figure out like the furnishings and whatnot.
Yeah, and you just kind of touched on my other question, which was, as you knew you were traveling with your daughter and your husband, what did you look for in assignments, in terms of, I mean, obviously the compensation package, I mean, that always factors in,
Hmm.
right? Certainly the facility and where you're going to be and so forth, but geographically, were you looking at it from kind of a family perspective? Were you looking at it like, this is where I'd like to go. I think that it'll be a good experience. How did you kind of factor that into your decisions?
Well, there's a lot of stuff to consider, honestly. Part of it was I was a little bit restricted on location because of my specialty. PICU isn't like at every hospital. Most of the
Yeah.
time, it's at large children's facilities. So that kind of brought us closer to larger cities. So that was one thing. And then, when we would look for housing, obviously finding a neighborhood that was a safe environment. So we would go look at like crime websites or like the police department and kind
Okay.
of like try to figure out, since it's an area we don't know, what it's like there and, make sure it was safe. Another thing that we took into account was the outdoors, like what activities are there, and when we either before we got there or when we got there, we would look at like public libraries, because oftentimes they have activities for kiddos to do there for free or really cheap, because we were on a budget. And that was really kind of what figured out to where we would go because I would look at pay packages because before we started, we put together our like minimum take home per week, what we needed to make in order for this to be beneficial for our family. And so, when my recruiter would send over stuff, she knew also what it was that I was looking for, but if as long as it hit that minimum mark for us, we were flexible, ready to go. And then we'd start trying to figure out, where we would go from there. And the national park thing was a huge thing. We would get like a yearly pass. And so I think we visited like 30 of them or something like that. So
Wow. Did you ever consider, as your daughter got older, did you ever consider doing an assignment on your own and having your husband stay home with your daughter while you traveled and come back on weekends and, that sort of thing? Or was it never really was under consideration?
yeah, I mean, I did at one point, like especially here recently before I started working internal with TNAA because I thought, darn, these rates are really great. Like maybe I should go for, 13 weeks and come back. But for me, having my family while I was on assignment was so awesome because oftentimes when you're a traveler, you go into these facilities, you don't know anybody, you don't know the city, you don't necessarily have ties there at all. So it can feel really lonely. And, the work piece of that is really challenging, but being able to go home to them was very comforting for me. So I would have a hard time personally doing it by myself. So I give major credit to all the nurses out there that are traveling alone because, I mean, we got to stick together. It's rough, and especially now. But no, I don't think I could do it by myself.
But a lot of people do, though. I
Yeah.
mean, there's an awful lot of people do, but I would imagine it's probably, um, there's a sense of disconnectedness, feeling like you're missing out on your kids growing up or events and what have you,
Mhm.
particularly when they're older. So I would imagine it's probably an aspect of travel nursing that can be very stressful, is the fact you are away from your family, and particularly when they're younger, you are
Yeah.
maybe missing out on that prom or driver's license or any of those things.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. Rachel, looks like we had a question come in from Jill. I don't know if you're able to see that there.
Yep, I can see it. She said,
Okay.
"Do you have any tips on your kids' doctor's appointments, immunizations,
Okay.
while traveling from state to state? Keeping all those records together could be tough, I imagine, which I can't
Mm.
even keep track of my own stuff, so I don't even go anywhere."
Yeah, that's a great question. So, For us, what we did was we kept all of our providers where our tax home was. And so we made several trips to come back, throughout the year for different things. And, like the dentist, we would kind of just wherever we were living at the time, find a dentist that was in our insurance and just go there. So that wasn't like a huge deal for us. But, something else, and especially because I do pediatrics, I'm like crazy about making sure that my kids go get their well visits, their vaccines, all of that stuff. And so as soon as I knew where I was going, I would look up, is there a pediatric urgent care nearby? Like, what facilities do I have access to? Because, life happens. And when you're out on the road, I mean, you don't want to have to be taking your kid to the ER or whatever the case may be, but the reality is sometimes that does happen. So kind of knowing what you have available to you is very important. And I have apps on my phone that I track all of my doctor's appointments and stuff for myself and my children. And so that's how I kept organized with that. But for the most part, unless Izzy got sick while we were on the road, we just kept everything with her primary doctor back home because we felt like it would be too many moving parts if I was taking her for a well visit here in this state and then a well visit somewhere else. So.
From your perspective, are you seeing more nurses that are traveling with families and are interested in traveling with families? I mean, again, from our perspective at the Gypsy Nurse, we're definitely seeing more conversation about it, more interest in it. But I'm curious from your perspective, having done it, being a nurse, having been around nurses, are you seeing more interest in it? Do you think that's going to be kind of the next wave of travel nursing? Is people going to say, you know what? I didn't, I did it when I was younger. I have kids now, but I'm still going to go for it. Are you seeing more of a trend?
Yeah, I mean, so with our Instagram account, we constantly get nurses asking us about how we did it and just asking for advice and tips on it. So definitely, I feel like we here recently, especially with the way the pandemic has been, we've definitely got a lot more questions in, and I feel like why not? I always had
Mm.
this impression that travel nursing was for single young people that weren't married or tied down and didn't have kids, which is why when Nick approached me with it, I was like, forget it. Like, yeah, I'll tell you I'm going to look into it because you're my husband and I love you, but no. Like, but yeah, I think more nurses are doing it, and especially because of the burnout right now,
Yeah.
it allows for a lot more freedom. You're not tied to the facility and kind of the politics that go into that. Better pay, the opportunity to be on like a working vacation, I guess you could call it, because we took those road trips between assignments as an opportunity to really do and see a lot of awesome stuff. Like the road trips were actually a part of our vacation. Like when we drove so I'm from Dallas originally. I was on assignment in Seattle. We drove from Seattle to Dallas and then up to Boston. And we did it over 3 weeks.
Wow.
And man, that was one of my favorite like road trips of all time. We went and did so much. We camped in national parks along the way. Like we kept a little roof rack on our car with all of our camping stuff and just had a suitcase apiece throughout our whole like 4 years of traveling actually. And then just a little box of toys for Izzy, whatever fit in the box, that's what she got to take. And so she got really good at, saying, okay, I'm going to give this toy to a kid that's in need because it doesn't fit in my box. So I think it really taught a lot of valuable life lessons.
I'm sure. Well, I have a question too. And I see a lot of this in the network group where people are looking for jobs for their spouses, but then there are also the men that the wives or the nurses, they want their husband to be the stay-at-home dad or the stay-at-home husband. And they, macho men were like, I don't want to be the stay-at-home dad. What would you say to those men, or women that are being the stay-at-home parent to like encourage them that like, hey, it's okay to stay at home? Like,
Yeah, that honestly hits home for us really hard because my husband is Hispanic and that is like a very cultural thing. So even though we told his family, like his extended family, like grandparents and stuff, that this is what we were doing and it was beneficial for our family and this is why, they still were like, but you're not working, you're not providing for your family. right? And so that was really kind of hard topic to drive home with them. They never really quite understood it until we showed them what it was like. But, those 4 years that Nick got with Izzy as a stay-at-home dad, he tells me all the time that's time that he would never trade in for anything, because I feel like a lot of parents don't get that opportunity, you know? And even though it's not a career that pays, he still, I mean, he was cooking, cleaning, grocery shopping when I was working nights. And then at some assignments, I'd have 6 shifts in a row, straight night shifts. So I was like an absent parent for a week, but he
Yeah.
did everything. He would pack my lunch. Like, I'm talking dad of the year, husband of the year. He gets major kudos for that. So I would say throw those stereotypes out the window
Yeah.
and don't worry about it. Don't let someone else's beliefs or thoughts on what it is that you want to do or your dream, take away from that, because it's a wonderful opportunity if you want to do it.
That's awesome.
Great point. Great point. We have a question from Claudia. Claudia says, "Hi, Britt. Uh, how did your extended family feel about you? How did your extended family feel about you and your family leaving home for 3 months at a time? Were they excited and worried?" So, you talked a little bit about the aspect of their viewpoints on you working and so forth. But what about just being away and not being able to see their grandchild and those sorts of things? Was that stressful?
It was, honestly, and that's kind of what sparked our Instagram account. It wasn't because we were trying to promote travel nursing or traveling with kids or a family. It was, hey, this is what we're doing. We're going to post pictures so that y'all can keep up with what we're doing. Because there was a lot of anxiety, I would say, on our parents' end, like making sure that we got to where we were going. We would be doing sometimes 13-hour days on the road driving with their 1-year-old granddaughter, and they're like, "Hey, we're freaked out about this," and they were upfront and honest with us about it. But I think just having that open communication with them about where we were going, where we would be, kind of telling them this is our plan, especially if we were going on a long road trip like we did from Seattle to Boston, so that they kind of could track us along the way to make sure everything was okay. But I think once they saw, how transformative traveling was for our family, that anxiety and kind of just thought that we were being nuts, it changed to excitement. And they were really proud of what we accomplished. I mean, in 4 years, we paid off $130,000 in debt. And we, I mean, we were able to save for Izzy's college and
Wow.
put money away in savings. And that was all without Nick working, not to mention the non monetary piece of the family time that we had together and those years that, you know, just we look at the pictures and it's like, this is incredible. I can't even believe we did this. Some of the stuff that we did, like ride Maid of the Mist at Niagara Falls,
Yeah.
people wait their entire life to do things like that.
Yeah.
And I got the opportunity to take both of the most important people in my lives to do it. We kind of joke that Gabby, our 1-year-old, is getting shafted because, Izzy's been to Disneyland like 20 times and she's been to all these national parks and done all these cool life experiences, and Gabby, well, second child.
Well, Izzy doesn't have to tell Gabby anything. Just tell her
No.
not to say a word.
Right.
Speaking of that, I had a question from a member of the community that wasn't able to view tonight, but they wanted me to ask this of you. So you kind of touched on it a little bit, but obviously when you have your kids with you, they're sharing experiences and so forth, but what about kind of their connection with other children? And making friends and part of that. I mean, it sounds like you guys were able to form friendships at your different assignments. I would imagine that probably some assignments that people were more open and friendly and connecting, and you had more play dates and those sorts of things than other assignments. They may have been a little bit more welcoming. But yeah, just what was it like? And I would imagine too it was probably hard for her to make friends and then leave them, right?
Yeah, and that's a great question.
Mm.
And I don't think it was something we really thought about until we started doing it. Um, so one way that we kind of worked on that was, the public libraries, because they offer a lot of like reading programs and
Yeah.
crafts, and it's all either low cost or free. And so that was a great way for her to interact with kids her age. Another thing that we did was YMCA's. So there's YMCA's all over the country, and they offer, you
Good
know,
point.
recreational activities, sports. So we did that actually in almost every location that we were assigned. We were members of the YMCA there. In fact, in Boston, Izzy learned to swim there at the YMCA, and she was there with like 5 to 6 other kids her age, and she had her first 4 birthdays all in a different state. And we got her involved in soccer while we were in Washington, and dance. So I think that shouldn't be a limiting factor, but really you just have to explore what options are available to you. There's Facebook groups with like moms activities. Nick even went on there and found like dad play dates. I know that sounds silly. And he at first was like, I feel really creepy doing this. Like, I'm not comfortable. And I'm like, you have to though. Like,
Did they involve beer?
well, we went to a lot of breweries. That's one of our favorite things to do.
That sounds like a
Um,
benefit.
yeah, so and a lot of times people bring their kids there, and there was even one that we went to that had like a little playground, so the kids were playing and doing their thing. But yeah, Izzy made a lot of friends, but I think we were very proactive in getting her involved in activities and seeking out those opportunities when we were out there. And I would also connect with nurses on assignment, and especially the ones that had kids, because I wanted to get them involved with them while we were there. I made some really great friends doing that as well.
Do you still keep in touch with some of those friends, and have you had the opportunity to reconnect with them and Izzy?
Absolutely. Yeah,
Very cool.
actually, we just went up to a wedding in New England a few months ago. And they live in Colorado now, but that's where we met. And yeah, we keep in touch all the time, and still some nurses in Seattle as well, Colorado. I mean, actually, every assignment that I've been to, I mean, I still talk to at least one person from each facility.
Aw.
That's
Now,
awesome.
you're talking about like play dates with the kids. Like, so were you ever able to find like a babysitter or anybody to watch Izzy so you guys could have your own night out, or was it
That
just family time all the time?
So that was a challenge, and I might be the wrong person to ask this question to, because I'm a PICU nurse. So I'm like, are they CPR certified? Like, what's their background? I don't want some random person watching my child.
Yeah.
So we did have those opportunities to, have date night, Nick and I. But I would say it was mostly family time. The times that we did do date night, it was a lot of times nurses that I worked with were watching Izzy for us, just because, I'm like, I know you could, in an emergency, you could
Yeah.
do what you need to do to take care of my kid.
Yeah.
But I do know a lot of nurses that use Sitter City or care.com, because
Yeah.
you can find reliable caregivers on those websites that are background checked, CPR trained, first aid, all of that good stuff. So there are those options as well. I'm just a little bit over the top with that.
I don't blame, because it'd be very scary, because I mean you don't know anybody, so it's like I'm
Mhm.
not just gonna hand you off and
Right?
fun.
And
Some baby.
sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say some babysitter comes in and they're, some 17-year-old kid, and you're like, hey, are you this? You're like, lady, I just want to
Right?
watch TV.
Right. Well, and I see all the freak accidents that happen in
I know.
pediatrics. So
Yeah.
that's why I'm like, that's not,
Yeah.
I'm probably the wrong person to ask. Other nurses probably wouldn't be as crazy about it as I am, but that's kind of what we did.
Now, so as you were going through the assignments, and it sounds like you had some extensions, but obviously some only did 13 weeks or what have you. When you were winding down and you knew that you were not going to be extending and you guys are going to be moving on, how did you it was particularly she got older, how did you translate that to Izzy?
She was honestly excited. So she kind of viewed every new assignment like, even, I mean, we never stayed in a hotel as our housing, but she's like, "Oh, what hotel are we going to? Like, where are we going to go next?" Because we made it really fun for her. And like on our road trips, we never put like the iPad or phone in front of her. We would sit there, and she had this little desk that she would put on her lap while she was in her car seat and color, and then had her dolls and her Barbies. And then we would like talk about what we were seeing outside, and, kind of make a game of it, doing I Spy or things like that. So it was really an adventure for her. I think she really got excited about the prospect of going to a new place. And she's honestly a little antsy now because we've been stationary since December of 2019. So we're coming up on 2 years, and, we're talking about moving back to Colorado. And she's like, "When are we going? When are we going?"
Wow, no fear in her, huh? Most kids would be
No.
like, I don't want to leave here and I have all my toys in my, and she's like, let's go.
Yeah. I think it really instilled, like adapting, like she can adapt and change and just kind of mold into any environment that she's in, which I think will really serve her well later in life.
Yeah, no, so much of what you're talking about as we're kind of, going through this is the experience, the experiential aspect of it. I mean, we were talking earlier before we went on, but obviously one of the reasons that many people get into travel nursing is the financial component. Particularly now, it's very strong, and rightly so. Some of the travel nurses out there are doing very well, and deservedly so, and they're able to pay off bills and other things. Others just don't want the politics of being a staff nurse. They want to move other places, but sounds like your impetus and some of the benefits that you're bringing across is the experience. It is the experience of spending time as a family and spending, and your daughter, even at that young age, sounds like that influenced her positively and is kind of helping to form her outlook on life.
Yeah. Well, and I'm happy to bring her in at some point so she can explain her perspective if, any of the Gypsy nurses want to hear from a child what, her thoughts on the whole thing were.
We would love to do that. In fact, if you're ready now, bring her in. We only have about
right.
15 minutes left, so we would love to hear Izzy's perspective on travel nursing. Now, is there any fee that we have to pay her or anything, or is she just going to do this for free, or do we have to give her swag, or
She tells her friends that she's famous on Instagram, and I
there
believe
she is.
I believe that's true. So here's Izzy. I'll give her the headset so that you can ask her some questions.
All right, Izzy.
Can you hear?
Hello, Izzy.
Hi.
How are you?
Good.
I'm Steve, and that's Rachel. It's really nice of you to spend a few minutes to talk to us tonight. Hi. We're talking to your mom about her experience as a travel nurse and when she used to go on travel nursing assignments with you when you were just a little kid. Did you have fun doing that?
Yeah.
Yeah. What was your favorite place that you went?
Albuquerque.
Albuquerque. And why Albuquerque? Was there anything particular about it that you liked? Was it the weather or the food or the place you stayed or your friends?
Basically, the whole place.
The whole place. All right. Well, I'm from Boston. I know you came out to Boston one time. Did you like Boston, or were you too little to remember?
I remember.
You remember. What was your favorite part about Boston?
I liked their food a lot.
You like the food. Very good. Now, Rachel's in Indiana. Did you guys ever go to Indiana?
Maybe. I'm not sure. Have we?
What?
Have we, Mom?
Have we what?
Been to Indiana?
Indiana? No, we never went to Indiana.
You'll have to put it on your list of places to go.
Yeah. Well, right.
We have a lot of corn.
When you go to Indiana, you can visit Rachel. So do you miss travel nursing? Would you like to go back on the road with Mom sometime, Mom and Dad? And how do you think your baby sister would like it?
She'd probably cry in the car, maybe a bit.
Well, we were just talking about how you have seen all these wonderful places and done all these fun things with mom and dad, but your baby sister hasn't yet done them. So it sounds like she may be a little bit jealous when she finds out all the fun places you went to.
And I'm not going to tell her about
You're
it.
not going to tell her. That's the right thing to do. Don't tell her. Don't make her sad, Don't make her sad. So I would imagine that you are very proud of your mom too. Your mom's being a nurse and helping out all those sick kids. I would imagine you're very proud of your mom. Yeah, it sounds like you got a fantastic dad too, huh? All right. Well, thank you very much for telling us a little bit about your travel nursing experience. I hope you'll join us again sometime, okay? All right. Maybe we can get mom back on. Thank you, Izzy.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. She is adorable.
Thank you.
She is adorable. Absolutely fantastic to have her on. And I did ask her if she was very proud of you, and she said that she was. So and proud of dad too, and rightly so for all the great work that you've done and you continue to do. So that was great. I can see how she is used to talking to people and was not intimidated at all, which is a benefit of travel nursing, right?
She used to, when we were, out on assignment, at the grocery store or wherever we were at, kids her age at the time when she was like 2 to 3, would shy away to their parents and not really want to talk. And she just look at them and be like, Mom, Dad, why aren't they talking?
Aww.
So what did she, obviously having been so directly involved in your experiences, and we talked a little bit about it when she was on, but, obviously knowing that you took care of sick kids, what was her reaction to that? And how did you explain that to her? Because I could imagine for some children that would be extremely disconcerting and disturbing. How did you explain that to her?
So she asks me about that all the time, especially when I go into the hospital still. She's like, Mom, did you take care of any sick babies or kids today?
Yeah.
And I'm honest with her, I maybe not too much, but I don't go into like a whole lot of detail. But, sometimes she gets frustrated with me because I don't want her riding her bike without a helmet or jumping off the stairs or whatever the case may be. And then she'll be like, oh, yeah, I remember, Mom, you told me you took care of a sick kid like that and they got really hurt. And so I think it helps her kind of understand a little bit where I'm coming from when I get crazy about certain things that she wants to do. But I do, I feel like in pediatrics, we're constantly communicating with children. So, I think being honest with them is really important and not trying to hide things. And so I do, I tell her, what it is that I'm dealing with at work, but just on her level.
Now, I know she's super little, but the obvious question is, being around you and having gone on assignment with you and everything like that, do you think that she may at some point enter into a career in healthcare?
Oh, yeah. She's already told me that she wants to be a nurse like Mommy is, and her grandmother is a nurse as well, pediatrics also.
No
So
kidding.
yeah. So Nick's mom, she's a peds nurse. So she's got, nurses all around her. And then now with dad being a recruiter, she's constantly exposed to it. And, science is her favorite thing, which I remember growing up, I always really looked forward to that in school. And so I kind of see her following that path. But if she doesn't, whatever she loves, is what I want her to do.
Well, she's a wonderful child, and I know she's very proud of you, and you're very proud of her. So it seems like it's just been a great experience for her, and she seems like she's ready to get out on the road. I did ask her, "Is you ready to go?" She's like, "Yeah, I want to go back out on the road." Spoken like a true travel nurse, right? I want to get back out on the road.
She's antsy.
So, absolutely. Well, Brittany, this has been just a fantastic session. Just the amount of information that you have brought to the community, and your perspective, I think, is invaluable. And, it's just, we see all the time in the network group, as Rachel was mentioning earlier, just about, people asking about it. And, should I take there is the leap of travel nursing, right? Which you guys had talked about earlier today. And then there is an even further leap, which is, I have a family, I have kids. Should I travel nurse? So what's your parting advice here in terms of whether or not to do it and what to think about. A couple quick thoughts, you know.
Well, I mean, you just got to figure out what it is that you need for your family. Because, like I said before, it's not a one size fits all. So, everyone has a different situation. Your kids could be younger, older, schooling situation, child care. Do you have a spouse coming with you? All of that stuff really factors into your overall decision. And then, if it is something that you feel like you could make work, trying to find the right company for you to fit all of those needs. So I say if you can narrow all of that down, do it. I mean, you only live one life, and I would regret not doing the 4 years that we did. I mean, it was just the best experience ever. I still like pinch myself thinking, Did this really happen?" And now I get to work for the agency that I traveled for that I loved so much as a traveler, and get to help, foster these nurses that are coming up to do the same thing that I did. I love it. It's incredible.
Well, you are very inspirational to people that are considering travel nursing with children. So again, we really appreciate the information. So it sounds like, travel nursing, it's not just for people that are just getting started. And it's not just for people that are empty nesters. Anybody
Yeah.
in between with kids can do it, right? If you think
Yeah.
about it and plan appropriately. So, so Brittany, this was great. It was great to meet Izzy. And we really appreciate the information. I know the community does. I know, Rachel, you had a couple of things to say, and we were going to talk a little bit about some gifts and so forth, right? There was a little bit of, you had some information to pass along about some gifts.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on and talking about that. It's super important in the community. And, at some point, most of these nurses are going to have a family, and, they either have to decide if they're going to keep going or just, settle down. So we appreciate it so much. And I'm watching in the comments. So I will be contacting all of the winners of the contest. So I'm going to rifle through everyone's names and draw your names, so that way you can either win a $75 Amazon gift card, a TNAA backpack, or a TNAA water bottle. So, there's still a chance. So throw some comments in there for a chance to win those. And yeah, I just can't thank you enough for coming on here and sharing your wisdom, and hopefully it'll inspire some families, because I think that is just amazing. If you have the opportunity, why not?
Yeah, no, thank y'all so much for having me. I really enjoyed being able to share all this information, because I know if I would have had someone to speak to before, I would have loved the opportunity to get some of that information, because I didn't know anybody that did it. And when I searched online, I didn't really find much about it. I think the hardest thing overall for us was deciding to do it. And then once we did it, it was like everything fell into place.
Well, to have it's one thing to speculate, but coming from somebody that has done it and done it successfully, and you didn't just do it once, you did it over 4 years and about 10 assignments, right? That's not like, hey, I tried it once, it worked for 13 weeks. You did
Right.
it for a long time. So it's very, very valuable information. By the way, you can tell Izzy, she was a star. She is a true internet star. You're getting lots of comments. Hello, Izzy, you're a star, all this stuff. So she is officially a star.
I will let her know. Thank you.
All right.
And
Well,
then
Brittany,
sorry.
no, please go ahead.
I'm just going to mention you mentioned your Instagram earlier. So if you wanted to give everyone, I believe it's going Garcia's, or just without the S.
Going Gone Garcia's.
Gone Garcia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the older content is really when we were traveling and being active out there, and you can see all the national parks and stuff. Currently, it's more like pictures of our kids, but it still has a lot of great information on there. And both Nick and I wrote several articles about travel nursing with a family. And I believe you can get that information from our Instagram as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
Great information. And again, we really appreciate it. Thank you for what you do, and, all those years of taking care of sick kids. I know it probably was very, very, very difficult, and appreciate what you do as a nurse, and again appreciate your sharing your experiences with our community, because it's a very important topic. So Brittany, thank you so much. I hope you will join us again for other sessions.
Absolutely.
So we will definitely have you back. And for those that are joining late, as I mentioned at the beginning, all of these sessions are being recorded, and we are going to put them on our site in on-demand format. So they will be around, in perpetuity, as they say. So if anybody came in late or wants to share this content with others, over the next few days, this information will be posted, and really encourage people to go in and watch the session. It was a fantastic session with lots of great information. So Brittany, thank you for joining us twice today. We appreciate it. So go get some rest, and hopefully we can have you back on again very soon. So thank you very
Sounds
much.
good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you to everyone who joined us today. Thank you again to our sponsor, Fusion Marketplace. If you didn't see at the beginning, Fusion Marketplace is a one-stop shop for healthcare travelers where they can easily compare benefits, pay packages, and reviews across multiple agencies. As a traveler-first driven platform, Fusion Marketplace is a curated career experience where healthcare travelers can take control of their career. So thank you again so much, Fusion Marketplace. We're having so much fun already. It's the first day. We're all finished, so we have 2 days left.
2 more days, and we've got some great presentations tomorrow as well as Friday. So we encourage people to join us. And again, all this, if you're joining us late, all of the presentations will be available on demand for the rest of the week. So definitely check them out. They will only be available to registered members of the Gypsy Nurse. So if you're not already a registered member, I highly encourage you to do so, and you can unlock all this great content. We have a bunch of other benefits for registered nurses. It's all free, so we always provide information to the nurses with no cost associated with it. So we've got event alerts now that people can sign up for, job alerts, recommended jobs, content alerts. You can connect with friends, you can chat with others. So many great things. So definitely encourage everyone to become a registered member of the Gypsy Nurse. There's lots of great stuff on the site.
All right. Thank you so much, Steve, for all that. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. And we'll see you tomorrow.